All right. So wanted to say a big thank you and welcome to my guest today, Jasmine Granton. So Jasmine, thanks for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you for having me. Very exciting to be on the first one. It's an honor.
Do you want to just start by introducing yourself, letting everyone know a little bit about you and your role? And if you don't mind as well, would you be able to share an interesting fact about yourself that maybe no one knows about you as well?
Sure. So I work at Evolved. We're an agency based in Newcastle. I am the digital content and PR lead. Stumble over that every time because it's very recently changed. I was the digital PR lead, changed about 3 weeks ago. So I still keep getting my own role wrong. But yeah, I've been there for just over a year now. We are predominantly a search agency. So yeah, that's kind of what I do day to day. I also co-run a video production company with my partner, Chalkboard Creative. We create video content for lots of different businesses. So yeah, quite a busy time at the minute, but all really good stuff. In terms of an interesting fact, I'm not a super interesting person in terms of social stuff. I mean, I have a lot more tattoos than you would be able to tell. I've got about 28 to 30. I can't remember now.
Wow, that's impressive.
But yeah, from this angle, you can't see too many. So I think people are quite surprised in the summer where you can see a few more on my arms and legs and things. But yeah, love getting new tattoos.
So today, the bulk of our conversation is going to be about leadership and leading a team, and with a particular focus on leading people in the remote working world, I guess. And there's been a lot of talk and debate recently in the industry about people management. I actually think that it was a topic of conversation I saw on Twitter today, and I think I actually saw yourself commenting on that as well. And that idea that, you know, it's right for some people and it's perhaps not right for everybody. Some love it, some hate it. I guess it'd be good to know what it was that made you choose a path towards people management and leadership, and what it is that you love about working with people.
Yeah, it was quite a natural choice for me. It was back when I worked at Era Digital. I was managed originally by Paddy, Shannon, Aoife and the team. And I was just really inspired by the way they managed. It was something that I wasn't used to. I wasn't used to good management. So when I first started to see it and sort of started to envisage the approach that I would take as a manager, I just got really interested in going down that route. I think naturally I am a people person. I thrive from conversations with people. I love learning from people. And also from a mental health perspective and from almost like a mentorship approach, I really enjoy supporting people. It's the most fulfilling part of my role for me when I can see someone develop, or I get to give a promotion, or I have to give constructive feedback that I know is going to make that person better at what they do. That's really kind of where I get the buzz from. I sort of realized a couple of years in that whilst I love building links and I love kind of creating content, I didn't get that same buzz that I had at the beginning, you know. And there was once upon a time, if I got a link on Forbes, it would make my week. And then slowly that just started to disappear. But the first kind of person that I didn't manage but mentored was my friend Harriet, and she came in as an intern. And I mean, she's now a team lead. And so seeing her over the years progress is just, yeah, that's really rewarding to me. So that's kind of why I decided to go down that route.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're quite similar from that perspective. And you know, my background was in digital marketing as well, but it wasn't until, you know, seeing that development of people, particularly from a very early stage in their career through to, I guess, being quite senior and doing things like speaking at conferences and leading their own teams and things like that. It is incredibly rewarding to watch that journey and to kind of think, okay, I had a part to play in their development and their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, as you were saying before, I think it was Lou actually who tweeted today about whether it's right for everyone. And, you know, it's definitely not. I do think it was the right decision for me. I personally believe that I mean, you can learn to be a better manager, but if you don't have those initial core skills or interests and passion for it, I think it can often produce managers that are not great. And I think historically, there's only been one kind of route to the top, and that's managing people. I know from experience, I've had managers who definitely shouldn't have been managers. They were great at the day-to-day job. They were great at the delivery and the strategy, but in terms of people skills, not good. So yeah, I think it's incredibly important that we can create different paths to the top for lots of different types of people, and and make sure that we're not forcing everyone down one route, because ultimately it hurts the people that they manage more than it does them.
Yeah, definitely. Have you seen that? Have you seen that quite a lot in the industry? Then, obviously, you've worked at a few agencies now, and have a good network, particularly within digital PR. Have you seen that quite a bit, where perhaps there maybe isn't those different routes to, whether you want to specialize as an individual contributor or go down a people leadership track, and perhaps you're kind of stuck into going into management when it's not necessarily what you want to do or what you feel strong at?
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. I think not so much kind of era and evolved. I think there's quite clear pathways, but I think in other areas of the industry that is definitely a hurdle. I think in-house it's a bigger thing. I think within agency world, we need specialists, we need strategists, we need people who are focused on the clients and the delivery. And in my experience previously, there's been a lot of people who want management. So those people who are just really, really good at the job and want to crack on are invaluable. And I think they deserve the same amount of recognition and the same amount of support in their development as people who are doing people management. But based off of some people who have managed me, I can definitely see that there was only one track for them, whether it suited them or not. Outside of this industry, I used to work in recruitment. It's a big issue there, especially recruitment agencies. Really, the only way to progress is to manage people, and recruiters can sometimes have quite a strong personality type. And I definitely experienced some not so great management techniques from people who were just very focused on just the money and just the sales. So yeah, I have seen it. I think it's improving. I think as Gen Z are now kind of within the workplace, agencies especially are not getting away with it as much anymore. Like, even within the short time I've been a manager, the amount of training I'm having now on EDI, on neurodiversity, on how to manage with empathy, all of these things are so important. And you're just not going to retain the staff unless you actually put that investment into managers and train them properly. I definitely started off management by just learning by what I saw, which isn't the best way, but it is what it is. Sometimes there's not that many management courses that are super modern that are available, from what I know.
True. Yeah, it definitely helps to kind of, I guess, gain experience on the job and watch other people in management positions, like you say, and almost take lessons both from the managers that you have liked in the past, but perhaps also to avoid some of the traits that you wouldn't want to adopt yourself as a manager, right? So
and I think there's some real theory, like practical theory behind being a good manager. Like, one thing is being really empathetic and being kind and that kind of stuff, but I do believe that more training is needed within the industry for performance management. How do you manage somebody who isn't performing, and how do you build their self-esteem whilst also trying to get the best results? Because ultimately we need clients to stay, and I think that's a really hard balance. Things like how to deliver constructive feedback in the appropriate way in one-to-ones, all of those things are things that originally I learned by example, and I think I was incredibly lucky to do that because I did have really good managers. But if I hadn't, I'd have learned all the wrong habits, and I'm sure I do have some bad habits. And recently we've been doing a very thorough management training, somebody externally who has come into Evolved, and some of the things he's teaching me, I'm thinking, okay, that's not how I do that. I need to reassess. And I think there's a lot of different ways to be a good manager, but having those fundamentals in place before you are given that responsibility is fundamental. Because if you start managing someone poorly, that person below you, it's a wheel. It can just continue and continue.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been very keen in the past to, if I have put someone in a management position, that they start to learn and start to demonstrate the competencies, particularly those behavioral competencies that are needed to take on a management role. And a management role is an incredibly important and privileged position, right? To be in a position where you are essentially responsible for looking after and developing someone. So it's huge.
It's a huge responsibility, and if you do make a lot of mistakes, it can have like a massive knock-on effect and impact the wider business as well. Because in our industry, kind of fairly recently, there was a lot of stuff around kind of Glassdoor reviews and various spreadsheets causing drama, and it doesn't take too many people to build a bad reputation, especially in an agency and especially in an industry that talks a lot. So I think just from a business perspective, it's very smart to train your managers well before they are given that responsibility.
Absolutely. I kind of wanted to move on to talking about remote working, because as I understand, you're not based where Evolve's offices are, so I guess you spend quite a bit of time working remotely. So is there anything that you've needed to do to adapt your kind of leadership or management approach when it comes to leading your team? And what kind of challenges have you faced so far?
Yeah, I've had to change it massively. So I go up to Newcastle once a month. So I see my team in person once a month. That's not kind of contractual, so I can do more, I can do less. It really depends. I do my best to go for one-to-ones or appraisals, things that are face-to-face where I've got to give constructive feedback, or where I want to give a lot of praise, because whilst I do work remote 90% of the time, I do think there is value in face-to-face contact and communication. In terms of how I've adapted, it's quite a lot of the time it's the small things. So if you have a conversation with somebody in the office, perhaps there's a small amount of confrontation or a little bit of feedback that you need to give. In the office, you'll see them in half an hour and be stood in the kitchen making a cup of tea with them. You'll ask them about the weekend. You'll have a laugh with them. You might even go for a drink after work with them. And it keeps this level of, kind of happiness, and it doesn't feel quite as intense. Whereas when I have a difficult conversation, I press end on the call and I don't talk to them again until it's a deliberate choice to speak to them, or, I don't get to have that face-to-face time. So something that I try and do is check in a little bit more regularly with my team than I would do if I was in the office. I try and make sure that there's time within the week that we just talk about normal stuff, not work. What you do at the weekends? What did you do at the weekend? What films have you seen? What podcasts are you listening to? Just try and keep like a real human level, because what I don't want is that every time I communicate with them, it's just work, it's just feedback, it's just, client stuff. So I try and make sure that I'm still building that foundation of not necessarily friendship. I mean, for me, it is friendship. I am friends with everyone on my team, and I'm very lucky that I get on with everyone on my team, but just to make sure it's not constant management chat. Challenges: when someone is having a really hard time, they might be struggling with things personally. It can be difficult to convey empathy through a screen, in the same way that, body language is a huge part of communication, one of the biggest parts, even more so than the things that you actually say. And so it's really important for me to be on camera as much as possible, and to really spend the time, if someone has got an issue, putting aside an hour and going, look, let's talk about it. In the same way that I'd probably pop out of the office and go for a walk with them, I just have to make sure that I am trying to kind of reflect everything I would do in person, but through a screen. So it definitely has its challenges. But in terms of things that I've put in place, I do morning stand-ups with the team. We cover the 2 priorities of the day, something positive that's going on. I try and keep everything as positive as I can, but allow people to come to me for a whinge, because again, I think that's a big part of office culture, is you get off a client call or you get off a call with someone who's wound you up, you just need someone to chat to. And if your manager's 300 miles away, sometimes it can feel like a big deal to go, can we have a call about this? That feels quite formal. So I encourage, quick huddles, voice notes, just having quick 10-minute rants with me in the same way that you would grab me in the office. But again, like with that, I think something that's really crucial about working from home is setting some boundaries, because I can't spend all day every day just checking in and just talking about podcasts or just having a rant with the team. So I'm quite clear with them about how much time I've got free that day, what time I'm in meetings. I use Slack, like emojis for do not disturb and things like that, just so they know if I've not replied to them within an hour, it's because of a certain reason. They've got visibility of that reason.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of good points there, and I think one of the words you used was human, and I think probably remote work, whilst it is amazing, and I don't think many people would kind of go back to how things were before, it does take away an element of that humanity, and as a leader that can be quite difficult. Quite obviously we want to build those informal relationships as well as the kind of formal, like you say, the video calls, you have to kind of schedule them, and it's very structured, and it means that if you don't make the effort to find those informal interactions, that can be lost, and therefore that humanity as a leader can be lost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I feel really lucky that I'm not too far away. I can't, it takes me about 2.5, 3 hours to get there. So I can go up and I stay for, 2 or 3 nights. I go for dinner with them. I do try and make the effort when I'm there. And I mean, it's not even effort because they are the funniest bunch of people. So I love going to see them and going out with them. It's highlight of my month. But yeah, it is challenging. And I think if you are managing from home, or if you're in any kind of leadership position remotely, making that effort to have some face-to-face time, even if it's once a quarter, is so crucial. You can really learn a lot about people individually. But also I think for me, something that was crucial when I first started was my only goal for the first 3 months of this job was to build trust with the team, because I knew it was going to take longer than it would if I was there in person. So, I think being vulnerable with them was step one of that, of going, you know what, I've started this new role and I'm a little bit scared. Like, you all know each other, I'm a little bit out of it. So being vulnerable to allow them to be vulnerable. We also do quite a lot evolve to do with individual values, and we host team value sessions, which for us as a team really allowed us to discuss what is important to us as people, whether it's family, whether it's humor, whether it's resilience. All of these kind of keywords came into it. So I think getting to know your team on that granular level now allows me to assess behaviors and understand where it's coming from. So if somebody is kind of a little bit delayed in some work they're meant to be doing, because I've got to know them so well as individuals, I can normally pinpoint before they even tell me why. And again, it's that human element. They're not kind of numbers on a spreadsheet. They're not just a team. They are individual people with individual personalities and, different personal issues, mental health issues, diversity issues, so many different things create these individuals. So I really try and get to know them all very specifically on that level, so that if I am working from home and one of them needs to speak to me about something going on, hopefully I've already got a little bit of a grasp of how they're feeling.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely worth putting in that effort, and it could be very easy, I guess, when you are so far away, for these people to essentially be avatars behind a screen, right? But the fact that you're kind of making an effort to get to know them on a different level, as opposed to just a manager, an employee, I think that's really great. When it comes to then, I guess, creating a team culture, how have you found that when you're kind of not always together in person?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a challenge. I mean, within this scenario, I was quite blessed that when I joined, whilst there were kind of issues, as there's always going to be if there's a vacant management position, they are all already quite close as a team. I've hired 2 people into the team since I started, so embedding new people into the team when you're not there is also a little bit of a challenge. One of the people who I brought in is also remote, so bring another remote person when they all work together was another challenge. But I think starting the daily calls first thing in the morning was really crucial, because it just, even if you are, because whilst a lot of them are based in Newcastle, we have flexible working. So even the people who are sometimes in the office are also quite regularly at home. So on any given day, you've got 3 or 4 of us on Zoom and a few people in the room. So it's about, for me, it's about getting on a call every single morning, again, focusing on something positive, on priorities, really building an understanding of each other's boundaries and time. And I think a big part of our culture is support and helping each other. So the way that we kind of work across clients is quite fluid, which means that if somebody is a little bit behind, I can very easily look at how much resource someone else on the team has got and say, hey, you look like you've got a couple of hours next week. Let's get you on this client. Let's get you supporting. And I think by doing that, we've built a culture of everyone's got each other's backs, and no one needs to suffer in silence. There's always going to be someone who can jump in and help, which even from like a more personal level, I think has helped us create a stronger culture. And also, as like basic as it is, the socials do help, you know, and they don't always need to be fueled around drinking. I know there's a lot of conversation around that, but just going out for some lunch together and chatting about things that aren't work. And again, it was something that we started to do. It's not something that we are doing a huge amount at the minute. It's actually something that someone who was in my team, Jen, came up with, which I think is a great idea, is peer one-to-ones. So of course I do one-to-ones with everyone in the team each month, but also randomly pair up 2 people. So once a month they do a one-to-one with each other, and it can be about challenges they're facing, about specific campaigns that they're not gelling with. They can talk about TV, podcasts, whatever they want, but making sure that you don't fall into those little cliques of who you're naturally friends with, and making sure that everyone's mixed. So yeah, that's a little bit of a long answer, but it's really important for me to have that strong team unit, especially in digital PR, because it is a world of rejection a lot of the time. So we need to have humor and a bit of kind of resilience within the team and support.
Yeah, that support, definitely. I really liked that idea actually of the kind of peer-to-peer support or kind of mentorship, I suppose. And yeah, I guess it can be very easy, again, but particularly when you're working remotely, for teams to start, you know, becoming quite siloed, I suppose, and not kind of interacting with each other. And that sounds like quite a good way of getting people across the business to communicate a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And like integration has been such a key part of our whole agency strategy in the last year. And my role has recently gone from digital PR lead to digital content and PR. And we're kind of merging a couple of teams together so we can integrate closer, so people aren't working these silos. If 2 different teams are working towards the same goal, let's mix them up. Let's have them interacting. Let's have them sharing knowledge, doing training sessions. Like all of those things are so important. I think in an agency, you have so much talent, and quite often people can just be comfortable within their roles when actually we want to be learning from each other. And again, like getting that support across the wider teams, not just in these smaller teams.
Definitely. So I guess at a company level, Evolve's obviously pretty well known for being an advocate or a pioneer of 4-day weeks, which is obviously growing in popularity across the world, I suppose, at the moment. Has leading a team been affected at all, either positively or negatively, I guess, by working 4-day weeks? And if so, how?
It's interesting because I've only worked at Evolved whilst it's been a 4-day week. It's gone over like a year and a half now. So when I first started, they were still within their 6-month trial. And whilst I was there, it was confirmed that they were moving forward. The data of the survey results, when the team were asked in terms of productivity, mental health, how they feel about friends and family and socializing, everything had just gone up and improved. Doesn't mean to say it's faultless and easy, but we have worked on kind of different ways to make sure that clients are continuously serviced. So, for example, within my team, it's meant to be a 50-50 split, but it's never going to be a perfect world. So it's like a 40-60 split of who works a Monday, who works a Friday. So it's not, I think what some people think is that, right, on Fridays, we all just switch off, we all go to the pub, when actually the agency is always functional, it's always running very effectively. And we've had a lot of good feedback from clients as well, and that it's not impacted, because that was obviously a crucial part of it, was making sure that clients were still happy with what we were delivering. Many of them had not noticed any difference at all. Some of them had actually noticed positives because people were a little bit more passionate about their work again, a little bit less drained, coming in, you know, on a Tuesday with energy, and being a lot happier. So it's overall, I think it's incredible. I would struggle to go back to a 5-day week. However, it does have some challenges in terms of I realistically in a week only have 3 days where I can have the whole team together because I've got some off on a Monday, some off on a Friday. So if I do have like a big team I need to discuss or a big, you know, analysis of something that I want to do, I have to get it on those 3 days. But it's just about being a little bit more organized. It's also quite nice because on a Monday, some of the team are in, on a Friday, some of the team are in. I tend to switch mine around so that sometimes I'm in on a Monday, sometimes a Friday. And because on those days I've got essentially half a team, I can get to bond and work with them a bit closer on their clients. Again, those morning meetings on a Friday and a Monday are often very much like, how was your weekend? Or what are your weekend plans? A bit more social and casual. So I sort of see it as like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all hands on deck. Everyone's kind of, you know, the majority of the meetings happen on those days. And actually Fridays and Mondays are a little bit more like get your head down, do your work, either start the week or end the week. And yeah, for us, it works really well, but does come with its challenges when I need to get the whole team together.
Nice. It's good to hear. Some positive stories from 4-day weeks because yeah, I'm certainly an advocate for the idea in principle. Anyway, I actually did quite a lot of research around 4-day weeks when it was almost starting to take off, when I was actually getting into HR, and yeah, the productivity and well-being benefits are definitely there. It seems like, and it's great to see, you know, Evolved and other businesses kind of seeing the benefits from that now and choosing to kind of adopt that as a full-time thing.
Yeah, and I think like the flexibility around the other days as well. So like we have core hours that we work, but you know, if you're not having the best day and you just do your core hours, you can make up your hours on other days. You know, it's not a case of right, well, because we do a 4-day, you got to be in from, you know, 8 till 6 on the other days. It is very flexible. There's a very great culture of trust and autonomy, which I've not really experienced before. You are very much left to get on with your job unless you need support. So it works in that way. I think for other places I've worked, it wouldn't work, because if there's going to be micromanaging, or if there's going to be everyone has to do a thing at a certain time, it's not going to work. So you've got to be quite forward thinking to implement it and for it to be successful.
Yeah, have that culture of trust and autonomy, definitely.
Got to be there in place, otherwise it's just not going to happen.
Nice. All right, cool. So I guess to start wrapping things up, would you be able to give us your top 3 remote leadership tips?
Sure. It's really hard to fit it into 3, but I'm going to do a really broad one, which is open communication. You know, I put in my diary when I'm having lunch. I put in my diary if I've got a gym class, if I've got an appointment, just to make sure that they know it's okay to not always be switched on. And also so that they know if I'm not replying, it's for, you know, a specific reason. My second one would be just to treat people like people. You very quickly get used to having a lot of different conversations over a screen. And whilst at first it can feel a bit unnatural, especially when you're talking about really personal things, I think as long as you're present, as long as you're using your body language and facial expressions as much as you can to show empathy, it can be almost as impactful as being there in person. And if you can get to people, you know, maybe once a quarter, once a month, just to have that face-to-face time, then yeah, that is ideal. I think the third one is really to have trust. If you don't trust your team to do their job well, you will fail, because you'll be checking in too much. You'll be hounding them. It'll be, you know, it'll feel very passive aggressive. I know 100% that everyone on my team is incredibly capable. I have very regular one-to-ones to check in on things that are potentially going wrong or that are challenging that they need help with. But fundamentally, I have a very strong belief that they are all incredible, and that allows me to get on with my job, and they know I'm here if they need me, and that I will drop anything. I think if you're a manager, you might have sales stuff to do, you might have kind of client stuff to do. Ultimately, people come first. So you've got to drop everything if they need you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it can it can be difficult and challenging when you've got your own commitments, but ultimately I guess the takeaway there is if you are a manager or a leader of people, that is your kind of primary objective, right? Is to be supporting them when you need to.
And that's why it goes back to the start of the conversation of, if you don't want to be that person, if you don't have it in you to drop everything to support someone, it's maybe just not your personality type, and that's absolutely fine. We need both people.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, Jasmine, thanks very much. That was that was really fascinating, and some really fantastic tips there for people to kind of hear. If listeners want to connect with you or ask any questions, whereabouts could they find you?
So until it burns down, on Twitter @Granton Jasmine is the best way to find me, and my DMs are open if anyone needs any support or help with any of this stuff. I'm always happy to talk about it.
Brilliant.